Hey guys, it's Lisa back with some thrift flips. I'm going to redo a few items here and that I had gotten at a thrift store. This table is something that I picked up a few weeks ago at the local Goodwill, and I just paid $10 for this table. It's not a great quality table, but it's good and sturdy, so just doing a little updating on it will make it very sellable. So I just give it a good sanding, just to get rid of any rough spots, and that way I have something smooth to work with. Now I just put one coat of paint on this, and I'm not using any particular brand. It's just a paint that I found in the mist tints. And it's I think this is a satin finish here. I don't like to do glossy, but if I have to use flat, then I just clear coat it. But with this particular paint, I'm not going to have to clear coat or anything. I use chalk paint a lot. But when it's got a good base on it like this, and it's a matte base, and I'm not going to have an issue with the paint sticking, I just use whatever paint that I have on hand. And so in this case, it was just that mist tint that I had picked up at Lowe's. Now when you paint a big area like the top here, the main thing is just to pick a direction and make sure that you keep going in that same direction. If there was a wood grain that was obvious, then obviously you would stay with the wood grain. There isn't here, and so I just pick a direction and I just put a good coat on it. And as I said, I was able to do this in one coat. And so now I'm putting a stencil on the top. Now, I had people walking around in my store, and there were many times that you could see their faces, and so I had to cut that out of my video. But I essentially just taped a stencil on there, and now I'm using a stenciling brush and applying it. And there it is. I didn't show it that good because, again, I had to cut more of that out. There's more of a close-up. And then I'm just taking a little piece of sandpaper and sanding around the edges to give it somewhat of a distressed look. I didn't use the sander because I wanted to be able to control that, and I was able to get just a light distressing the way I like it. And there is my stencil. If you haven't tried any of these large stencils, they're great for furniture. So now we're moving on to a picnic basket. And this picnic basket had been painted and just wasn't very attractive. And so there's a lot of room for improvement here. As you can see, the inside is needing some work. And so is the outside. The handles are metal. It's a really good quality picnic basket. And it's got some age on it. So it's easy to make this, give this more of an updated look. And I'm going to start with agave blue paint from Waverly. And I'm putting a good coat of this on the inside. Now, it does cover with one coat. I was worried that I would have to put another coat, but I didn't. I'm not going to paint the bottom because the bottom is just wood color. And so I'm just carefully trimming up next to that bottom, and then I'm going to put a coat of this agave on the entire inside of this piece, except for the lid. And as you can see, that's covering really good. So now I'm going to put that same agave on the outside. And now when you're painting basket weave material, it's so much easier if you can spray paint it, but then you're very limited to your colors. And so I wanted to put this blue on here. So it covers pretty good. I didn't worry a whole lot on this piece about getting every little nook and cranny in this basket weave, because I'm going to go back over it with a wax, and it's not even going to show. But I just put a good coat on the entire basket. And then I let that dry before I start on the lid. Now, my plan for the lid was to just paint it. And then I decided that it looked like it was chalk paint, and so I wanted to try to wipe the chalk paint off those metal handles. And it wiped right off the metal handles. And I'm sorry that I had that out of frame, but as you can see, it wiped right off. But those handles had kind of the look of copper to me, so it gave me an idea. And but I went on also to try to wipe that off the wood, and I cut that footage out here, but it actually wiped almost all the paint off the wood just with a damp cloth. And when you're dealing with chalk paint, if it hasn't been sealed, and obviously it wasn't sealed, then it's water soluble, and you can just wipe that off. So I got what I wasn't able to get off with a wet cloth, I was able to sand off. Now here is some metallic colored apple barrel paints, and I used the copper and the antique bronze. Now, so what I'm going to do here, and if you haven't tried these metallic paints, they're awesome. But so this copper is a real bright copper color, and it makes it look like new copper. Well, if you've known me long, you know that I don't like for anything to look new. So I put this coat of copper on, and then I let it dry, and then I add the antique bronze over the top. And when you mix those two colors together, it gives it the look of aged copper, and that's what I was going for here. I love that these handles were already kind of a copper color, because it gave me the idea to do this. And I do love copper. That's one of the things that I collect in my home, is just some old pieces of copper. And so I felt like this would look really good on this basket. And it's amazing how much like copper this looks, but it's really amazing how much you can age it with just adding that antique bronze over the top. Now, I have been known to add a little bit of light teal blue, just just blot it on here and there to give it that patina. But on this one, I didn't want that, because I felt like that color of blue might clash with the blue that I'm using on the basket. So I was happy with just aging that bronze. So once I get a good coat on these handles, on the inside of the handles and the outside, and I let them dry good, then all that I have left of this basket is the lids. Now, these lids were made from plywood, so I didn't like that look. Plus, I had it down to the original wood color. So, I think especially with these handles, I need to go darker on these lids. So, my solution for that is an antiquing wax. And I love to use antique wax because it's water soluble and easy cleanup, and it doesn't make a lot of mess like a liquidy stain would, and you don't have the fumes to deal with. So I'm just going to put a good coat of the antiquing wax. Now, a lot of times I'll water this wax down, but in this case I want a darker finish, so I'm just going to put a good coat with a wax brush. So if you use a wax brush, it's going to get down into the grains better. You could do it with a cloth, but I just like the way the wax brush does. No particular brand of wax brush. I just use, what I found, and I don't even know what that was here. So then I'll just go back and take a cloth and wipe it off. And I'm going to do that with around the edges and on the inside of these flaps. And one coat is all that I had to do on this. And as you can see here, it's going to match that handle really well. And I was really happy with the way it turned out. So as you can see around those edges there, it really makes a big difference on, this stain really made a big difference on this wood. Now I hope I'm not making you guys cringe because I'm not wearing gloves and protecting my hands or anything, but that's just how I work. I worry about the cleanup later, and this is an actually easy cleanup. It even comes out from under your nails pretty well, so I don't worry about gloves. They get in my way. I'm really loving how this is turning out here. So my next step, I'm not going to leave this blue alone because as you can see, it's showing some of the green underneath it, but I didn't mind because this was my plan all along, is to go over this basket with a white wax. Now, if you haven't used a white wax over your, in any brand, I'm not showing the brand here, but any brand of white wax will work just fine. And you just take that wax brush and you rub it down into the grain. And normally what I do is I rub it on and wipe it off. But in this case, I've sped it up here so you can't see, but I'm really, really rubbing it in good. Because I want it down in those grooves really good, into the little cracks, and where it fills in, it just makes such a difference in your color. And that white that just kind of hangs out down into those creases just has a really pretty look for baskets. And as you can see, it's really, really easy. Well, this particular wax that I used has more of a waxy feel to it than what I usually use. And at first when I started cleaning the brush, I thought, oh, this is not going to come clean. But it kind of melts with heat. And so once you get your water hot, it cleans right out of that brush. Now, I cut out the footage on this. This is just one of those little wooden shapes that you get at the Dollar Tree. And I just stained it with that same antique wax and then wrote Picnic on it. I just thought that would add a little touch. Now here I'm taking just a silk ribbon and I glued it to the back of this piece, and now I'm gluing it down the whole inside of the basket, and then that'll hold that in place good. And I just felt like that added a little something to it. You could have left that off, but I just felt like it needed a little something, so I added that. And now it's complete, and I think it turned out super cute. Now on to our last flip, and this is just a little pottery piece that someone has made, and they've signed it on the bottom. It's cute, except that it's just this drab brown and doesn't have any character. So I thought that was a good opportunity to use this blue that I used on the basket on this bird. And so I'm just going to put a coat of this chalk paint, the agave blue, on this whole bird, let it dry good, and then apply the white wax. And this is a good time to mention that I did the drawing on the snowman, and Amy Berry won the wooden snowman, and Paula McGuire the glass snowman. So I'll put my email address in the comments below, and you guys can email me your address and I'll get that in the mail just as quick as possible. And there it is after it's dried, and now it's ready for the white coat. Again, Amy Berry and Paula McGuire. Now this is just the same process. I'm just painting this white wax onto this bird, except now I did leave it on the basket and just kind of rubbed it in really good. On this one, I'm going to wipe it off. And that's really all there is to doing this flip. It's a very simple flip. Now, if this had had a gloss on it, I would have had to do a clear coat first and then put the chalk paint on it for the chalk paint to be able to stick to that good. But since this was just a flat, drab surface, it was perfect for painting. Now, I'm just going to take a cloth and just lightly wipe that off, and all that white wax will settle into the creases and give it the look that we're going for. And look what a difference it made in this little bird. If you guys have enjoyed these videos, please give it a like and a share and comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you and have a great day.